Hi, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon.
I know why you're here. It's certainly not because of me.
You are just fishing for compliments,
No,
aren't
I'm
you?
serious. I'm serious. I know when I'm in the company of a superstar. We're talking about the creative economy. Some people say that the creative economy can contribute to growth of a country. By creative economy, we're talking about industries like culture, arts, TV, radio, and of course, film. If you take a look at the entertainment industry in LA, it's worth an estimated $500 billion bucks. By Biden definition, that's a lot. It employs about 5 million people. So you can see why governments around the world are increasingly acknowledging the contribution of the creative industry. And of course, when we talk about the creative industry, we have to acknowledge the actors. And today, someone who's been in the creative industry for about 30 years, she is the creative industry. WEF described Michelle Yeoh as the leading Malaysian actor. We know better than that. She's a global superstar. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Yeoh with us today.
Wow.
Anyone who's been a Bond girl is a superstar, yes? We agree on that. Now, Michelle, it's a very interesting journey because it was a forced career change. You were a trained dancer, but a back injury forced you to look for an alternative career.
Correct.
And boy, was it the right move. How did it happen?
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here at the WEF. What do you call it, WEF?
WEF.
WEF. All right, at WEF in Malaysia. And I welcome all our friends from around ASEAN to be here with us and elsewhere as well, in Kuala Lumpur, where this is my home country. So that's why I'm also here today. I did go into the acting world, it wasn't planned, if you want to put it that way. I was always a little ballerina who had dreams to be a ballerina and one day have her own school and all that. And it was a back injury, and I was told that I could not ever dance again. But I could still be involved with the dance world, hence being a choreographer, a teacher. I could continue in that path. So I packed my little ballet shoes and went back to college, university, and I went on to do a degree in dance, and I minored in drama. And at that time, I assure you, I hated it. It was such a passion. I never thought that one day I would be an actress because I had stage fright. And you know, in England,
And you're afraid of heights.
I'm afraid of heights, I'm claustrophobic, I have stage fright, the list goes on, and I don't even know why I'm here today. But the truth is, at that time, you know, the English take their stage performances very, very seriously. And when you have stage fright, the minute you get on stage, you forget your name, forget about lines. I mean, I couldn't even say my lines, one of them, without going. So I would find all ways to try and Skype all the lessons. So I am sure my professors today, when they first learned that I became an actress, they would all be going, no way, that's not the Michelle that we knew. But I was very fortunate. In fact, I went to Hong Kong first after I graduated, not to be an actress, but there was a business entrepreneur who decided that he needed to use actors to market his products, his goods, and that was in fashion, it was in jewelry. And I was very blessed because he met up with a friend of mine who turned around to him and said, oh, I have Jackie Chan, I have Chow Yun-fat, I have George Lam, I have all the best, most amazing actors. I haven't found my actress yet. So my girlfriend, Malaysian girlfriend, turned around and said, oh, in her wallet, in Hong Kong, she whips out my photograph and say, how about her? And he said, yes, please, can you invite her to come? Yeah, she's kind of cute. A little chubby, but kind of cute. And I was given the opportunity to play opposite Jackie Chan in a watch commercial. And that was how it all began.
But since then, you've played all sorts of roles, including roles in Hollywood film. Mm-hmm. Initially, the roles given to Asian women were pretty much that of prostitutes are based in Chinatown.
Yes. Well, they always needed to find an excuse. Why would we have an Asian face in our movie? So unless we were in Chinatown, or it was, right? Otherwise, and we still had to speak in the Chinese language like that, on top like this, and then they can understand, oh, Chinese from Chinatown. And I remember, I must say, after I had been quite successful in Hong Kong movies, and Terence Chang and John Woo were just starting out in Los Angeles, and they said this is a very good opportunity to come out because they are looking into having more Asian faces in their movies. Because if they look around their own communities, there are a lot of Asian faces. We are part of the American community, very, very much integral part of it. So why would they need to find an excuse that they have an English-speaking Asian in that community? And I will never forget the first, you have to go through the things that meeting the agents, because that's how it works over in Hollywood. They have very, very strong, like CAA, WMA, all the agents that look out for the actors, the directors, the producers, the writers. And the first thing he said to me was, wow, you speak pretty good English. Very slowly he speaks to me. I said, yes, it was a long journey coming out here. I had 13 hours, so I learned on the plane. I'm like, if you are going to be, I think at that point, because their market, they were the king of the world. They have, like you say, 500 billion. And they were quite insular. They never looked beyond their backyard. Most of them never even traveled out of their country. So for me to say I'm a Malaysian, they still think, oh, okay, where the heck is Malaysia? First of all, no idea. Then, oh, Japan. It's like, no, Malaysia's not Japan. So it was an interesting process. It's quite humbling because, I came from Hong Kong, and at that time, I had done movies with Jackie. I was also quite well known as a very well-regarded action actress. And suddenly when you go to a place where they don't quite know who you are, but they were told that you are quite important and quite well known, so then they sort of feel that they have to take you into consideration. And
Asian actors have come a long way, but that's still a long way to go.
But the good thing is now they are reckoning with the China market. And we have been very smart. They have been very, very smart where they built a very strong platform. If today you look at the box office in China, it's getting close to be comparable to what the box office in America. And within this decade, it will all change. But at the present moment, they are still the more sophisticated filmmakers. The good news is in Asia, we are never afraid to learn from somebody else. We're never afraid to say, we don't understand this, but guess what? When we learn, we can be better than you. And I think we've proven that over and over again. But I think with storytelling, with filmmaking, it is a responsibility across the board. I don't think we try to be better than them or them better than us. It can be a joint effort, because there are so many stories that we can tell together and collectively and make the whole process. Because at the end of the day, we want to benefit our audience. Because you are our bosses. Because if you don't want to watch us, then we have nothing. We have to just go home,
You've talked about racism in Hollywood, but what's to stop Asia to have its own benchmark? I mean, can you be a successful actor only when you have gone to Hollywood? I mean, we're talking about 600 million people in Southeast Asia, 1 billion in China alone. Mm-hmm. If you're so demanded in this part of the world, then maybe Hollywood will be turning to you.
The tides are turning. Hollywood was always the benchmark because they were the best. And in many ways, they still make some of the most amazing movies to date, and you can't deny that as a fact. But we can learn from them, and we should learn together with them. And you find that there are many more co-productions which are being made nowadays, whether it's with Chinese stories, with American technology and their sophistication and all that. And we can make it together because at the present moment, we have grown up watching the American movies. To be fair, in Asia, we watch all kinds of movies, whether it's from America, from Europe, from India. We watch all the Bollywood movies. We watch the Indonesian movies. We're used to watch Korean movies, any movies. We're used to watching with subtitles as well. But this was something new also for American movies, because American English is the only language that they watch films in. So even when 16 years ago, when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out, the people told us, oh, you'll be very lucky if you can be on par with Life is Beautiful, which was the #1 Italian movie that won the Oscars, and their box office was like 26 million. And that was already unheard of. So then they said, you should consider making your movie in English, then you will have immediately a much wider range of audience. But at that point, it was Ang Lee's dream, his China dream, to make it with integrity. So it had to be, the very traditional, not just costume, language, the way we behave, the way we were, with no makeup, because at that time you just didn't have makeup. And that was his vision. So we followed his vision. And when we came to America with it, they actually showed in screening 2 versions, a dubbed version and the original version. And very quickly, I think by the first weekend, they could see that the audience, they didn't care. They just wanted to hear this foreign sound, which was so amazing. But they could feel the emotions. And that is where, with the magic of filmmaking, sometimes it transcends the language barrier, the whatever cultural barrier, because the language of love, of emotions, really it just goes across the board. And you get it, you feel it. And we managed to gross about 130 million, close to that, at the end of the day, just in America. So, it's perseverance. I mean, even today, just at the recent Oscars, you heard about the big racism, and it was the African Americans say, why aren't our actors more nominated? It's very hard to pinpoint and say, well, because maybe this year you didn't have as many movies that, demanded that an African American. And as a filmmaker, we always say, first of all, we don't make the movies for the Oscars. We hope that we're just making a good enough movie for the audience so that people will go and see it and get the message of why that movie was made, why it's so important to make a movie like that. And then secondly, it's like, yes, it's a recognition from your peers. But you have to remember the comparison of numbers of Asian movies or African American movies versus the Caucasian movies, there's a big disparity as well. So the competition naturally is bigger. And I think sometimes you just feel frustrated, and you feel that it is your right to vent your frustration. And hats off to the ones who came out and made their voice heard. See, there's nothing wrong with saying, because you have to. It took a long time before, like Patricia Arquette when she received her award, turns around and said, women should have the same pay. Like, suddenly everybody goes, you mean you don't? No, we don't, and we haven't for a very, very long time. So then it slowly...
Is it worse for Asian women?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately. I think across the board, it's not just, in America or in Asia, it's global. This is something that we know, because, one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is equality, and not just equality in, sex, but equality in payment. We work just as hard. So it should not be, just because you're a woman, you shouldn't get paid so high. You should. And I remember maybe 50 years ago, someone said, you have to work twice as hard to prove that you should be in that, just because you're a woman. So I'm so glad that times have changed. It will take time, because there are certain cultural biases that's been so ingrained for such a long time. So it will take us, and we have to keep pushing the boundaries.
I want to talk about martial arts, because you're known to perform your own stunts. And I also read somewhere that you've broken every bone in the body.
That's Jackie. He's the silly one that broke every bone. I didn't. Not every bone.
But you have been injured in the process of performing your stunts.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Is that a way of differentiating yourself? Is it important for you that you perform your own stunts, or is it just because you're better than other people?
No. I'm not better than other people. Actually, when I went into the martial arts world, I didn't do martial arts. But I was very well versed in ballet, in dance. I was quite a strong athlete. So there were a lot of things that I could do physically. I was very sort of coordinated. And I learned how to mimic moves quite easily because of my dance training and sports training. So when I first started, I think the most important thing was it was very much a man's world. because at that point in time. But if you look at the old Shaw Brothers cinemas, women swords fighters, there were a lot of women, very strong warriors in the old days. And then it became sort of
They
like
could
a
fly
lull.
as well.
Yes, yes. In the martial arts world, we all fly. Doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. But then there was sort of a lull where all the major martial action movies were done by men. And it was always the thought that women are the weaker sex, we should protect them. And Jackie used to say that until I kicked his butt. and because they felt, we can't let our woman get injured. I have to protect them. Okay, so you be good, you just sit there and I will, and we just run around going, save me. And I was like, that's not gonna happen with me. So when I first started out, I had to prove to the guys that I am there and I'm willing to learn. And if I get hit or I get injured, I'm not going to cry and go to the corner and mope about, because if you did that, you would be in that corner for a very long time. So I trained in a gym where I knew a lot of the stunt people and a lot of the stunt actors, where they go and they exercise, because it's a very physical endeavor. Fortunately, because even though I had been injured, I had gone through a very good rehab program where my back was stronger, my legs were stronger, and I understood my body better. I think at the end of the day, that's what we all have to get to, is understanding your body so you know how to protect yourself and know what parts of your body needs better looking after. So when I went in...
You've acted with a torn ACL.
Yeah, that was during Crouching Tiger, but that's another story. So I first went in, and it really was surrounded by guys only. But the good news is because I was very flexible. I could kick my legs and wrap them around places where the guys go, ouch, I'm not going to do that, and let her do it, right? And I was willing to learn, and I was quite quick at imitating their moves. So it was quite fascinating for these macho guys to go, okay, maybe she's not half bad after all. But when it came to filming, it was quite funny. Because, when the director would go to me, hit them really hard. No, why? He says, because otherwise they won't take you seriously. I'm like, why? Because they still see you're a girl, right? Because girls cannot deliver the punch. They'll come up and like that. So I'm like, okay, fine. So you go in and you boom, 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 because at first, and I understood why, because this guy, he would charge at me, like, for example, with a big fire extinguisher. And he was supposed to swipe me and punch me. And he went, and I could see his hand go, it slowed down, and then his punch goes, and I'm going, what the heck is this, I don't even know how to dodge him, because I'm not sure whether he was going to swing it at me or he would just do that. So I understood what my director meant, that these guys had to understand that you were just as tough as them, and you were ready to take them on. So after a couple of times where they get, ow, wow, you really hit me. Okay, then it became more fun. And I chose to do
But were they okay with it? I mean, if you could kick this high, were they trying to hit or kick even higher?
Not the stunt people. The stunt people are really there to protect you and make you look good. I mean, I look amazing when I fight with 7 stunt people, because they know how to take the punches well, they know how to react well. That's the magic of filmmaking. But when you're fighting with someone who is just learning, that's where the danger is, because they forget their moves, or they take it too hard. They take it in a too realistic kind of way. So the danger is always if you're fighting a real fighter, because for them, they don't know how to do, to stop when they're supposed to stop. So there's always the danger, but I chose to do my own stunts because I felt that I wanted to demonstrate that we can do it. It's not just because the guys, they're well-versed with it, that the men are allowed to play around in this field. So in that way, you had to work more. You had to work harder. But I trained with them, so they were more comfortable with me doing it.
Pierce Brosnan, Mr. Bond. And by the way, I had a crush on him growing up.
Don't worry, we all did.
He said that you're the female version of Bond. And that is a huge compliment. Yeah. And it takes a big man to acknowledge that.
I think it takes a man with real confidence, because he did not see me as a threat to who he was. He did not feel that because in that James Bond movie, I had my own stunt team come in from Hong Kong and to, to choreograph an entire sequence, which was just for me, and he stood at the doorway to watch, and he was like, I'm Bond, right? she's Michelle Yeoh, so she's a spy from China, but guess what? She's never going to be Bond because I'm Bond. And that's smart thinking. But sometimes it is difficult for me when I'm in with another actor, and we are both, because like, for example, when I did Police Story 3 with Jackie Chan, and he was saying to me, please, I beg you, don't do any more big stunts, because my stunt was like on a motorbike, I jumped onto a train. And his stunt had to be on the helicopter, jumping onto the train. Because he said, if you do this, I have to think of something. Otherwise, people will say, oh, Jackie's getting old. He can't even do what Michelle does. And I can understand his problem. Because people look at it like that, right? So then he says, please, I beg you, don't do any more like that.
Was playing Bond girl a defining moment for you in your career?
It made a huge difference because suddenly, you're part of a legacy that had been going on at that point when I did it for about 30-something, 40 years. So you're very proud because the minute you walk into, especially at the English immigration, they go, you're the Bond girl. I was like, however long you want to stay, you're welcome. It's amazing because Bond to them is their national treasure. If you think about it, right? So does it define you? I think it did in a sense because my Bond girl was a very special Bond girl. Because I remember when I first took a meeting in LA, and I was with one of the producers, and they looked at me and go, Bond girl. I know, I said, yes, I know, not your real traditional ding, 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 that kind of Bond girl, but guess what? Bond girl, how about that for a change? So it's being in the right place at the right time. I think the producers of the Bond was also understanding that their Bond had to change in many ways because they also wanted the women to be interested to watch the Bond movies. It wasn't just the men's, night out. And the stories should be on a more balanced level. So it was an amazing experience.
You've always been, I guess, selective in the roles you play. It was a conscious effort on your part to break the barriers, not to be pinned. Tell us more about that.
Well, the thing is, I'm very blessed because I'm in this career because it's by choice. I'm not just doing it because I have to make sure that I pay the rent and all that kind. So, and if you're so lucky to be able to choose that, then you should not endorse films or roles that you feel would just stereotype, especially the Asian woman. Like you say, when I first went to America, all the roles that I was offered really was the Chinatown girl or this or that. And you look at them and you go, okay, because if I do it, I'm saying yes, it is okay for this to continue. And I think one of the turning points where I felt I was really making a difference was when I was going to meet Danny Boyle in London. And at that time, he was making Sunshine. And the script was sent to me. So he recognized me as a very powerful woman figure, and he wanted me to play one of the astronauts in his film. So then I went to him, I had a meeting with him, and I said, Danny, what century are we in, right? This movie is still about Russia and America. What happened to Asia, China, Japan? Are we chopped liver? How come we're not, there as well? It should be a collaborative, a global effort to save the planet. It shouldn't be, because in the old days, it's always Russia and America who had the best technology and all that. And I was very, very proud at that point when he literally turned the script and he made a balance where we had the Japanese, we had the Koreans, we had the Chinese, we had the Americans, we had the English, the Russians, where it was a global effort. And men and women, not just men and, one woman. That kind of thing. So it sometimes, as filmmakers, we are also conditioned to think in a conformed way where it is a certain formula that has proven to be very successful. And, and certain people, they are afraid to take risks because especially nowadays, if you look at the budget for a film, sometimes it's very shocking. 150 million to make that movie and you go, why? Some movies, because of the CG, because of the entire world that they need to create, will need something like this. And then there's the P&A, which means the publicity and advertising. If you have a 150 million movie, you need 150 million to promote your film. So that's already 300 million for one movie. And sometimes if the box office on the first weekend is a miserable, like 5, 8, 10 million, that movie has no way to come back out of the red zone. You know, it's like a complete write-off. So it is very important because you're talking about big money. You're talking about a lot of money which should go in the right directions.
You played the role of strong women. You've played Aung San Suu Kyi, Bond Girl. Do those roles empower you?
Oh, yes. I'm very lucky because when I choose, not just the directors I work with, but the roles that I play, because I hope that with every role that I play, I learn something. And if you look
Does it have to be a strong woman?
No, it doesn't have to be a strong woman. I could play a strong guy, too. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But at the present moment, I feel that there are not enough roles that depict strong women. And if I have the opportunity to be the one who does it, why not? So, like when you take on a movie like Aung San Suu Kyi, it's you really have to learn why she made those kind of decisions. It's not just a two-dimensional imitation of who she is, you know, learning the way because she's such a recognized figure and loved figure. You can see by her demeanor and all that, the way she talks, you can identify and see her right away. But why did she get, no. So it is for me, the messages, because honestly, that film should have been called The Lady and the Gentleman, because it was a love story. It was about a husband who believed in his wife, who did everything in his power to ensure that she could fulfill her dream for her people and her country. And you know, I think without his love and support, unconditional support, it would have been much more difficult for her to be where she was and believe that, you know, she was doing the right thing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, what they did to her was isolation. The lack of human, you know, communication, physical, you know, touch. That was the most lonely existence. But she's a very, very tough lady. She's very strong physically and mentally. But you know, when you feel that you have that kind of love and support, it makes you much, much stronger. So when I come across a role like that, it's very encouraging. It's very, very inspiring. But for example, like Memoirs of a Geisha, now it was very intriguing to play a very Japanese, and we all say that they are artisans, which they are, you know, because when they learn the musical instruments, their whole life revolves around that. And yes, at the end of the day, but they choose who they bed with. That was an experience where I said I learned a lot of behavior, right? Learning about how to move like a Japanese. And I guess one of the nicest compliment was a Japanese woman actually came up to me and she said, "You made us proud." So that I felt I did.
Wasn't it also a compliment when Myanmar deported you?
Okay, but let me finish my Memoirs of a Story movie. But at the end of the day, at the end of the shoot, what you learn about their lifestyle was a lot of pain and sadness as well. So I was very happy by the end of the day to take off the kimono, to put it back in the box and put it back in the shelf, you know, and learned a way walking and understanding a little bit more about a culture that I was privy to. But then with the lady, and I remember it was very strange because while we were making the film, we had done it in, we had not announced it because Luc Besson, award-winning French director, very renowned director, was making the film. And we never said we were doing this story because we did not want in any way to put her in harm's way, because at that time, Dosu was still under house arrest. And during the making of our film, that was the time when she was finally released from her house arrest. And I will never forget, we were all in my room, and Luc Besson came in a little bit late, but just in time to see Dorsu up on the, her fence and waving at the crowd. And then Luc turned around and said, "How did they get our film? I haven't released it." And we go, "Luc, that's not me, that's Dorsu." That was pretty amazing. So at that point, we all said, let's go over to Burma because we were filming in Bangkok. We said we should all go over and say hello to her, because while we were making the film, we were not in touch. We could not get any communications with Dorsu. We had, fortunately, the blessings of the family. We became good friends with the son, the younger son, Kim, and he was with us. And he had still, at that point, a lot of trouble trying to get a visa to go in and visit his mom. So then we all tried to get a visa. I was the only one. Luke, everyone was not allowed to go in. And everybody went, "Why are they letting you in?" And then Luke's first reaction was like, "I have a very big scene to shoot next week, so maybe you go the weekend after." Because he thought, they're going to arrest me on site, so I can't afford for you to be slumming in the jail. But that time when I went, I had no problems at all. I walked in, I was like, a little apprehensive. I went with my brother. We came like bearing gifts, like wondering what Dorsu would need and all those kind of things. And everyone who was traveling with me kept their distance in case, I got thrown out. They would still go. I was like, "These your friends? What kind of friends is this family?" Thank you. But there was no problem. We went straight into one of the embassies. We had lunch, and then after that, we went to see Dorsu. It was surreal, because we had built our house exactly the way Dorsu's house is. It's like Google Earth and the configuration. And Luke had even placed it the way where the sun would rise and set, so that when you're in the house, the ambience, nighttime, sunrise, would be exactly the same. And so from photos and things like that, we had mapped out exactly how that place used to look. So as I turned into the driveway and I was going down that path, I was going, "Oh my God, I expect Luke to come around the corner and say, 'Get out of my shot, you're not supposed to be in this.'" And then her NLD members came to meet me, dressed in their white shirts and longi, which is exactly like my NLD members. So then, they came, they greeted me, and they said, "Oh, let me take you up into the..." And my first initial reaction was to say, "Oh, don't worry, I know my way around." And I thought, "Oh my God, I should have said that." But it was the truth. It was exactly the way it was. And I was going like, "How come my curtains are different?" I've got, "Oh my God, this is not my home." So it was amazing to meet Dorsu.
You've played so many roles. I've just been told that we need to
Wrap
wrap
up?
it up. But before we go, you've played so many roles. Is there one particular role that's very special to you?
It's like if you have children and ask which one is your most special children.
Oh, come on.
Simply because I always chose the roles I played. And at that time, for different reasons, for whether it was a director or if it was because I wanted to go to a certain place. Because, for example, I chose to play a role in a movie called North Pole, Far North. And it takes place up literally in the North Pole. And why? Because it was a very dark story. It was this reindeer herder that was shunned by their village, and they're very superstitious people. So she had to survive in the most stark of environments. And I wanted to be there because I felt that as a person, and as an actor, and as a human being, to be honest, I would get to experience what you normally wouldn't. So for about 2 months, I lived on an icebreaker in the boats. And when we were there, we started off in August, and by the time we finished in November, the sea was covered with ice. And it was you and Mother Nature. And sometimes she was brutal. You wake up in the morning and suddenly it's like a snowstorm and you're just stuck in the middle of nowhere. And you can feel that if I was out there on my own, I'm not going to survive this. Yeah, so I take on those different kinds of roles. So every one of them has a very special place in my heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let's give it up for Michelle Yeoh.
So thank you for your patience. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you all here.